तव कथामृतम् तप्तजीवनम् कविभिरीडितम् कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलम् श्रीमदाततम् भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः।
ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना. We are studying the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and we have to start today the conversations of Sunday, March 9, 1884, under chapter 20. But before that, yesterday, the conversations of February 24, we started from towards the end of that conversation. And there we missed one paragraph. Small but very important paragraph we missed. So, first, let us go back to that place. We started yesterday from Kumarsi. And then, the mother has kept me in the state of a bhakta, a vijnani. Vijnani is one who experiences God as immanent reality and has various sorts of living relations with Him. That is why I joke with Rakhal and the others, seeing God in all. Had I been in the condition of a jnani, I couldn't do that. If I always feel I am Brahmasmi, then I would not do that. In this state, I realize that it is the mother alone who has become everything. I see her everywhere. In the Kali temple, I found that the mother herself had become everything. Even the wicked, even the brother of Bhagwan Pandit, Bhagavata Pandit. So there is some wicked person. And even the brother of Bhagavat Pandit. So who was this Bhagavat Pandit and who was his brother and was he a wicked person? But here we lost ourselves. The next para, once I was about to scold Ramlal's mother. Ramlal is his nephew. So Ramlal's mother is his elder sister's wife. And for some human fault, a thought came to scold her. But I had to restrain myself. I saw her to be a form of the Divine Mother. So, some mistake, human level, scolding necessary, or he wanted to scold. But at that moment, the divine consciousness came back. Everything is Mother. So, he saw that lady to be a form of the Mother. Then how can he scold? This tells something more, huh? I worship virgins, this we read, because I see in them the Divine Mother. That was in a previous para that I worship virgins. It has come again here. Virgins means Kumari, unmarried, young, very small young girls. So the age does not matter. My wife, that was the important sentence we missed. My wife strokes my feet. Because that is the husband and wife relation, human relation. And in those days, tradition at least, the wife serves the husband. So as a part of that service, his wife is stroking his feet. But I salute her afterwards. Now this and the Ramlal's mother and the virgins, there is a very big lesson here. Afterwards, he salutes her because even during the stroking of the feet, what is his consciousness? He has been describing, seeing the mother everywhere. And particularly in the wife, she asked him once, "How do you look at me?" And he said, "The same mother who is in the temple and the mother who gave me birth and living in Nabat is the same, and that very blissful mother is stroking my feet." Now this sheds so much light on many things. Firstly, the Avatara's life is absolutely inscrutable for man. But mainly, this should be the normal relation between husband and wife. Wife may stroke his feet, but the husband must keep a respectful relation with the wife. And Thakur has shown this throughout his life. And so, salute her means show my full respect to her. Similarly, Ramlal's mother. So, in the world, Swami Vivekananda has defined this as a creed of the Ramakrishna Mission, that we should see that God is in everybody and our relation with everybody should be like that, that we are dealing with God. And maybe a wicked person, Thakur has told that previously, if there is a wicked person, one does not embrace him. A Thakur given relation that he does not embrace a tiger, though he is a Narayana. So those relative values are all right. But the consciousness should be like that. Always. That is our goal of life. And that should be our attitude of life also. That everything is filled with God. God is in every form. Though we have to deal with the forms as per their relationship. But within this as per, there should be the constant consciousness that we are dealing with God. Can we do that? That is the lesson which an incarnation carries before us absolutely. So that line somehow we missed. Very important. So now that is why I thought I will go back to that in the beginning of the class. So we go on drawing lessons from this throughout our life till we get that very vision when it will become natural to us. Whether householders, whether sannyasins, whether public, whether relations, whether close relations, whether one's wife or husband, but everywhere we must see God present in them. And that should be our attitude also, till we get the vision direct. After we vision get the direct, it will become natural to us. So that was the lesson we missed yesterday. Now we come to chapter 20, rules for householders and monks. That is the heading. Now there are rules, means in the relative life there are rules. But rules are to be followed only to go beyond rules. Rules are for men, men are not for rules. And yet, in our relative life, till we progress sufficiently high, we have to follow rules. And rules vary according to the state of life. So rules for householders and rules for monks, that is the topic here. Let us see when it comes. But reading the heading, we have thought this. And this is very much recognized in the Indian system. Sunday, March 5, 1884. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting in his room at Dakshineshwar with many devotees. Among them were Manimallik, Mahendra Kaviraj. About Kaviraj, I have told you many times. In Bengali, normal meaning of Kaviraj is the great poet. But in Bengali tradition, the Ayurvedic doctors are called Kavirajas. So Kaviraj is not a poet here. Mahendra Kaviraj. So his surname is dropped. Mahendra is his name and he is an Ayurvedic doctor. And though he has not come before, we can just find out Mahendra Kaviraj. His name is Mahendranāth Pal. Sithi Nivasi. He used to come near Sri Ramakrishna. In Thakur's terminology, his Sithi is Mahindar. And he was one of the doctors who treated Sri Ramakrishna. That much is information. Mahendra Kaviraj, Balaram, M, Bhavanath, Rakhal, Latu, and Harish. We have come across all of them. The master's injured arm was in a splint, March 9. In spite of the injury, he was constantly absorbed in samadhi or instructing the devotees. That was the mission of his life. If he would not be in samadhi, what is special in him? And if he would not be conversing with the devotees, why he has been in incarnation? So these two are constant in him, irrespective of his physical health. Mani Mallik and Bhavanath referred to the exhibition which was we read this perhaps, but let us go through, which was then being held near the Asiatic Museum. They said many Maharajas have sent precious articles to the exhibition, gold coaches and the like. It is worth seeing in their mind. Coaches does not mean horse carriage. Huh? Coaches means cots, golden cots. Now the Maharajas used to keep, and because there is a exhibition, they have sent it to be shown. which is a great thing for the devotees, householders. Master to the devotees with a smile. Yes, you gain much by visiting those things. You gain much by visiting those things. You realize that those articles of gold and the other things sent by Maharajas are mere trash. That is what you gain there. See, Sri Ramakrishna's views and our views were wondering about the golden courts, and Sri Ramakrishna says, going there you realize that it is trash. So the view about the world is twofold. God is everywhere, and in itself, as it appears, the world is nothing precious than clay, dust, trash, which we throw in dustbins, or like that. That is a great gain in itself, because unless we realize this, the hankering or desires will not go. We'll think it is a precious thing, and then we cannot really love God. So there are the two aspects of the same thing. When I used to go to Calcutta with Hriday, he would show me the Viceroy's palace and say, look uncle, there is the Viceroy's palace with the big columns. The mother revealed to me that they were merely clay bricks, laid one on top of another. I immediately, by association of ideas, I remember one incident. This is about Thakur, but about sannyasis also. Swami Vyoma-Rupananda, who was the second president of Nagpur Ashrama. He had gone to Mumbai on a visit on some work. Now one of the devotees took upon himself to show him the different sites worth visiting in Mumbai. So throughout the day, he has shown him here, there, and that Swami has become tired now, sweating very much, and he is in the ashram. The devotee goes back to him after it is dark and says, Maharaj, I have come now because I have to show you something which can be appreciated only when it is dark. Nowadays, that is throughout India. In the Marine Drive, land has been claimed from the sea. Sea has been pushed back, and there is a semicircular road on the beach. And at the center of that semicircular road, there are rows of lights. Now, at the end of that road, there is a hill, Malabar Hills. Now, if you go to the hill and look at this row of lamps, they used to call it the Queen's Necklace. So he said, Maharaj, that should be seen only in the dark, because then the lights will be seen. So please come there with me. He said, give me the description. He told him just now, as I told you. He said, oh, one light, one light, one light, one light. There are lights, I have seen it. One light, one light, one light, one light, I have seen it. So that should be the real sadhu's view. In avatar, that is very natural. So that reminded me of this incident. They were merely clay bricks laid on one top of the other. From here he says, God and His splendor, Aishwarya, God and God's glory. God has created this world, so this world is His glory. And if you dwell, this all right, creation by God. But if we dwell too much on the specific details within this glory, we forget God. And that was Thakur's teaching to the Brahmo people always. So he is telling that God alone is real. The splendor has but a 2 days existence. That means the thought which we should have is that it is difficult to realize immediately it is unreal. But it is ephemeral. Even a sun, it does not stay for long. So 2 days. 2 days means one kalpa, till God will destroy it again, till then, from the beginning. But any length of days, if it ends, it is like 2 days. When Yama was tempting Nachiketa that I will give you all the enjoyments of the world, I will give you enough life to enjoy those enjoyments. Nachiketa said, enough life you may give me, but one day it will end. That rule you cannot change. It will end. So the longest life, if it ends, is too short for a man. Because the enjoyments do not end. If we enjoy, the tendency to enjoy grows and the world will end. So it is as good as very short. So that thought Thakur is telling for us to cultivate. Then we can gradually rise to the thought that it is unreal. The magician and his magic. So to explain God, he brings this example of the world. The magician and his magic. He hallucinates her, mesmerizes her, he puts some charm about our eyes, and so we see things which do not exist. But how to understand? Because it vanishes. So this vanishing is the link between real and unreal. And so, giving the magician's example, all became speechless with wonder at the magic. But it is all unreal because it vanishes. The magician alone is real. The rich man and his garden, another example. People see only the garden. They should look for the rich owner. So, throughout this world, we should always seek God, and God alone who is only real, only worth visiting. So he has thrown out all that museum and exhibition worth. Mani Malik to the master, what a big electric light they have at the exhibition. It makes us think how great he must be who has made such an electric light. So he tries to think of God through the Aishwarya. So he says that is a very big electric light. Somebody has made it. So when we see that electric light, we think, who has made it will be greater. But Thakur has not liked this comparison. Here the thing made and the maker are different. In Thakur's view, God himself is everything. Master to money. But according to one view, Vedantic view, it is he himself who has become everything. Even those who say that are he. Even those who say that are he. So, the people who say, I'm Brahmasmi, those people who say God is everywhere, the experiencing man also is he. It is Satchidananda itself that has become all. So talking of God, generally Thakur talks of Satchidananda. Existence, consciousness, bliss, abstract. Existence, consciousness, bliss, absolute. Existence, consciousness, bliss, unbroken. That is the nature of God. So God is not just a person. God is this. Itself has become all. What he has become? The creator, Maya, the power of creation, the universe, and living beings. So see, the different categories in our mind are appearances, including the God who creates, because that is the show. He himself is all. So where is creation? But in this world which we experience, the hallucination of the world which we see, there is a creator and the creation. And in the creation itself, there is the material things and the living beings. But the truth about all this is that he himself is all. So Thakur has modified, rectified, refined what Mani Mallik was telling. The conversation turned to the museum, exhibition and museum. Museum is a sort of permanent exhibition. So from that exhibition, conversation turned to museum because Thakur has visited that. Master, to the devotees, I visited the museum once. I was shown fossils. So see, Thakur says, looking at it, what is a fossil? Suppose there is an animal and he has been crushed in stones and he has dried. Dead, dried, gone out of existence, but that mark, that old mark remains. That is called the fossil. That dried thing is called the fossil. So Thakur saw the fossil. A whole animal has become stone. So being pressed in stone, it has dried so much that it is like a stone. Just see what an effect has been produced by company. So Thakur Shiv, because it's stayed in the company of the stone, it has become stone. Likewise, by constantly living in the company of a holy man, one verily becomes holy. So turn from this physical material objects to satsanga. Live in the company of the holy man, your mind also will become holy by his company. That is Sri Ramakrishna's way of looking. That is Sri Ramakrishna's way of teaching from common things. Money, smiling. Had you visited the exhibition only once, we could receive instruction for 10 or 15 years. Because from museum you saw this. And in the exhibition there are many new things. So you could have seen so many things to instruction for 10 or 15 years. This is humor, this is high respect, this is understanding Thakur's views. Master, with a smile, how so? You mean illustration? By exhibition, how could I instructed 10 or 15 years? You mean as illustration? Belram. No, Balram intervenes. No, you should not go. Your arm won't heal if you go here and there. So that is a devotee, a loving devotee. He thought all this talk will lead to Thakur going there. And he said, your arm should not move much. It is still in splinter. After more than a month, master. So Thakur accepts Balram's views, but he wants to see something in a picture. That suggestion he wants to keep with him. Master, I should like to have two pictures. One of a yogi seated before a lighted log. The yogis, his own Guru Tota also, always sit in front of a dhuni, they call it dhuni, the lighted fire of a big wood. That would remind Thakur of meditation on the Lord. And another of a yogi smoking hemp and the charcoal blazing up as he pulls. Now, remember this, that smoking hemp was not uncommon in the sannyasis. The purpose is to forget this world and get a sort of intoxication. To forget the riches of this world. There is a saying in Hindi, Jai Chilam Chameli, फूंक दे बड़े सेठ की हवेली. Chilam Chameli is that chilam with pipe by which we smoke tobacco or hemp. And then there is a big lord and he has a very big mansion. So the sadhu, ordinary people get attracted to him. But sadhu forgets it by simply smoking hemp. So hemp is of that use to the sadhus to lose their normal consciousness and they should meditate on God then. So sometimes things disliked by the world are valuable in spiritual life. And the charcoal blazing up as it pulls in that pipe, a burning charcoal is kept. And when he pulls, that wind comes from outside and the charcoal blazes. That scene would have thrown Thakur into samadhi. Such pictures kindle my spiritual consciousness. As an imitation fruit awakens the idea of a real one. So people will understand by that example. A fruit made of clay, when we see that, we are reminded of the real fruit. In Thakur's case, these yogis' pictures would rouse his spiritual consciousness. He would be lost in samadhi, which is his natural state, which he would like to stay in, though he is staying in us. The obstacle to yoga is woman and God. So those things which arouse the tendency of enjoyment in us, enjoyment of objects called women, and enjoyment of the means of the objects called God. That is the obstacle in yoga. Yoga is possible, yoga means union with God, is possible when the mind becomes pure, when these ideas of enjoyment do not stay in the mind. Without going to exhibition or museum, Thakur is telling all this. The seat of the mind is between the eyebrows. But its look is fixed on the navel and the organs of generation and evacuation. That is to say, on woman and God. But this, through spiritual discipline, the same mind looks upward. Now, seat of the mind we should remember. Seat of the mind in general is in the heart. But what Thakur says, it dwells in the lower spheres of life. enjoyment. Now, when it comes face to face with God, Aham Brahmasmi, then that seed is in the eyebrows. And if it merges in God, then that is in the Sahasrara. So, to feel God constantly, feel identified with Him, is for Thakur the normal state of the mind. For others, he says, that should be, but it thinks of the lower strata. That is how we should understand this sentence. But through spiritual discipline, the same mind looks upward and slowly comes back. What are the spiritual disciplines that give the mind its upward direction? Now he's connecting it with his talk that one should live in the company. One learns all this by constantly living in holy company. The rishis of olden times lived either in solitude or in the company of holy persons. Rishis, they could live in solitude and think of God, but either they stayed in holy company, rishis themselves, holy persons. Therefore, they could easily renounce woman and God. So that is the lesson for ordinary man. If he lives now and then in the holy company and the company of devotees, as he has said, then the mind gets sanskaras of evanescence of the world and love for God. But its look is fixed on the navel and the organs of generation and evacuation, the lowest three centers. That is to say, on woman and God. But through spiritual discipline, the same mind looks upward. What are the spiritual disciplines that give the mind its upward direction? One learns all this by constantly living in holy company. The rishis of olden times lived either in solitude or in the company of holy persons. Therefore, they could easily renounce woman and God and fix their minds on God. That is the lesson. They had no fear, nor did they mind the criticism of others. So these are two obstacles in ordinary man. He is afraid. Afraid of what? Not afraid of death here. Afraid of what? When the mind goes to any higher level of consciousness, he has to renounce, give up the lower level of consciousness. Now, when they climb the steps, one must leave the lower step to get the upper step. Now, in that between, we feel if we do not get the higher step, where shall we be? That is the fear. An ordinary man, if you talk to him of giving up the world, he feels that joys of the world may be trash, but some joy is there. If I give it up, will I get the next joy? Now the same thing continues. In the penultimate state, the yogis feel that if I completely merge in God, will the bliss which I am getting by the company of God remain? And so the Taittiriya Upanishad tells, fearlessly go ahead. That means this fear from top to bottom is about giving up of our today's level to go to the higher level. But if one lives in the holy company, you will find that the mind goes higher and higher. So it loses the fear. Another thing is that nor did they mind the criticism of others. So in the olden times also, there were non-rishis, and they would say they are fools. They give up the available thing for the sake of unknown. And if we listen to this on any level, when a boy wants to become sannyasi, all neighbors, relations will tell you are giving up your duty to your family. So this is the criticism. And if one becomes affected, one cannot give up his present state of life. By staying in holy company, we learn that we have to go up and up and up. So no fear, no change in criticism. Important lessons. In order to be able to renounce, one must pray to God for the will power to do so. So what is lacking? Weakness of will, because of our tendency to enjoy, because of our thinking of the world to be real, the will has become weak, and so it does not get the strength enough. One requires strength to go up. One must pray to God because the small self is not generating that power. So one should pray to God and believe that God will give me that power. Atmana vindate viryam, that real nature of man called soul or God, that itself will give that power. If we pray for the willpower to do so, one must immediately renounce what one feels to be unreal. This is the second side. If we feel something to be unreal, then we should not stop there. This Vivek should not be a static Vivek. Immediately, Vairagya and Tyak should come. The householders renounce at least in their mind. The sannyasi renounces both ways. So, this renunciation, which is a natural effect of discrimination, should be executed immediately. If we linger there, we may go back. Even our thoughts will change. They are the practical, important hints of spirituality. The rishis had this willpower because they lived in holy company and solitude. Their wills had become stronger. Through it, they controlled the sense organs. So, control the sense organs, same problem. Organs are restless. We succumb to their enjoyment, or our will is not strong enough to go beyond that. So, rishis had will strong, so they could control the sense organs through discrimination, renunciation, willpower. If the tortoise once tucks in its limbs, you cannot make it bring them out even by cutting it into 4 pieces. Tortoise has a very hard shell and very tender leaves projecting outside. If it takes inside, then even if you cut it in 4 pieces, it will not bring them out. So that is natural with the tortoise, but that should be the will cultivated by the devotees. The worldly man is a hypocrite because he shows something, does something, thinks something, feels something else. He cannot be guileless because of this very hypocrisy. He professes to love God, but is attracted by worldly objects. He doesn't give God even a very small part of the love he feels for woman and God. The state of an ordinary worldly man is being described. But he says that he loves God. To Mani Mallik directly. Mani Mallik is a Brahma devotee. And he has been talking with Thakur about exhibition and museum. Give up hypocrisy. So when Thakur tells something, he tells in such a strong way that it must produce the desired effect. Money. Regarding whom? God or man? That means in the worldly life, in front of man also, we show something, we are something. And when we love God, we say we love God, but we are attracted to the world. So which hypocrisy you want me to give up, Master, regarding everything? Hypocrisy is a quality of the mind, a bad quality of the mind, which will take you down always. So regarding everything, we get precious gems of wisdom about sadhana every day. Man as well as God, one must not be a hypocrite. That tendency itself you give it up. How guileless Bhagwan is, Bhavanath is. After his marriage, he came to me and asked, why do I feel so much love for my wife? Alas, he is so guileless. Alas, and he is so guileless. Yeah, alas is wrong. Alas is wrong. No, no. Aha. Aha is joyful wonder. Oh, how guileless. Not alas, huh? Because when guileless is being praised, what is sorrow there? Alas is an expression of sorrow. Here he is concentrating only on the guileless. Because he has married, so there is natural attraction for the wife. But he is expressing before Thakur, why should I love the wife? Why I love the wife? So his guilelessness is praised. There the expression should not be alas, oh. Oh, he is so guileless. Or he is so guileless. No, he is like that. Isn't it natural for a man to love his wife when he is married and man naturally gets attracted to woman naturally gets attracted to man. Thakur has told this and married. So he feels she is her own and he likes to enjoy. So attraction is natural. This is due to the world bewitching Maya of the Divine Mother of the universe. So the Divine Mother of universe has created this husband-wife relation. Is a form of delusion, is a form of bewitching Maya. A man feels about his wife that he has no one else in the world so near and dear. Thakur knows the in and out of every type of man, that she is his very own in life and death, here and hereafter. So that is the feeling due to the Divine Mother's deluding Maya that man gets about his wife. Again, how much a man suffers for his wife due to this feeling. Still he believes that there is no other relative so near. Still, look at the sad plight of a husband. Perhaps he earns 20 rupees a month and is the father of 3 children. He hasn't the means to feed them well. His roof leaks, but he hasn't the wherewithal to repair it. He cannot afford to buy new books for his son. He cannot invest his son with the sacred thread. He begs a few pennies from his different friends. So a normal poor man's life, and still he loves his wife. But there is a but, eh? But a wife endowed with spiritual wisdom is a real partner in life. That is called Sadharmini, endowed with spiritual wisdom. Wisdom. She greatly helps her husband to follow the religious path. So all wives are not like that. After the birth of one or two children, they live like brother and sister, means without the physical attraction, sex. Both of them are devotees of God, so that is the purpose of living together. His servant and his handmaid, his servant, he is handmaid. Their family is a spiritual family. They are always happy with God and his devotees. They know that God alone is their own, from everlasting to everlasting. Beginning, end, no end. God is their own. They are like the Pandava brothers. Thakur too much remember these Pandava brothers, his constant companion when he was Krishna. They do not forget God in happiness or in sorrow. That is the great thing about them. The longing of the worldly minded for God is momentary, like a drop of water on a red hot frying pan. The water hisses and dries up in an instant. The attention of the worldly minded is directed to the enjoyment of worldly pleasure. Therefore, they do not feel yearning and restlessness for God. He's talking to Manimalik and all. People may observe the Ekadashi in three ways. Ekadashi, 11th day of the lunar fortnight. And there is a general tradition of fasting on that day. But there are three types. First, the waterless Ekadashi. That means I will not drink water also, Nirjala. They are not permitted to drink even a drop of water. Likewise, an all-renouncing religious mendicant completely gives up all forms of enjoyment. Not Ekadashi, but giving the example of Ekadashi, he says, the sadhu gives up all enjoyment. Always. Second, while observing the Ekadashi, they take milk and sandesh. Milk and sweets made of milk. That means to sustain the body a little, they take. Likewise, a householder devotee keeps in his house simple objects of enjoyment. So the comparison with this, simple objects of enjoyment, food and all that he keeps. Third, while observing the Ekadashi, they eat luchi and chakka. Now this, I had seen it previously. You have to see it once more. Or the Bengalis call it chakka. It is not chakka, huh? That is in North Indian dry cuts. It is not that. Chakka. Vedanta Swader Okay. So chakka is a type of sweet, puri like made of oh, maida. So that also is allowed. They eat their fill. They keep a couple of loaves soaking in milk, which they will eat later on. So in Marathi, I told you a proverb, Ekadashi Duppat Khashi. On Ekadashi, they eat double and heavy things. They eat something which they do not eat every day. What they eat every day, they shun, but eat other things. A man practices spiritual discipline, but his mind is on woman and God. It is turned towards enjoyment. Therefore, in his case, the spiritual discipline does not produce the right result. Hazara used to practice much japa and austerity here. But in the country, he has his wife, children, and land. Therefore, along with his spiritual discipline, he carried on the business of a broker. Such people cannot be true to their word. One moment they say they will give up fish, but the next moment they break their vow. So nothing they can give up. Is there anything that a man will not do for money? He will even compel a Brahmin or a holy man to carry a load. Just for earning money, he will do to any wrong thing. In my room, sweets would turn bad. Still, I could not give them away to the worldly minded. I could accept dirty water from others, but not even touch the jar of a worldly person. So Thakur's distinction is not on caste. Thakur's distinction is on the sanskaras. Worldly persons are devotees. At the sight of rich people, Hazara would call them to him. He would give them long lectures. He would say to them, you see, Rakhal and the other youngsters, they do not practice any spiritual discipline. They simply wander about merrily. Rakhal and others are happy in the holy company. Hazara can neither understand that and he would criticize them in front of others, showing his own glory. A man may live in a mountain cave, smear his body with ashes, observe fast and practice austere discipline. But if his mind dwells on worldly objects, on woman and gold, I say, shame on him. But I say that a man is blessed indeed, who eats, drinks, and roams about, but who keeps his mind free from woman and gold. So enjoyment and the enjoyment of means, you give it up. Apparently, there may be many things with you, but you are thinking of God. Oh, time is over, time is over. So he still come back to Manimalli. We shall take it up on Monday now. Om Tava Kathāmritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibiriditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadatam Bhuvi Grananti Ye Bhurida Jana Om Shanti 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 हरि ओम तत्सत। श्री रामकृष्णार्पणमस्तु।